Alrighty guys, welcome back to another night at Thursday Night Live here at Careville Craft Brewery. My name is Brandon Esposito with Classic Custom Rods, and I'll be filling in for Tim this evening that couldn't make it. As always guys, I'd like to give a couple special thanks to Careville Craft Brewery for letting us do it here. It's actually pretty awesome what we've got going here, and also for Von Baldwin Fly Fishing for setting us up with this table. It's pretty cool and it makes my job a little easier. So as also just a friendly reminder, Fly Fishing Bow River is giving out trips between April and May, full day trips for $4.95. So if you're thinking about getting out this year, you're not sure of time, or if you want to get out a little bit earlier in the year, just give us a shout and we'll be able to get you on the water. Looking at the next week and the following week's itinerary, we're leaving this Saturday to head down to Idaho to pick up the boats. The plan is to still host this here. Everyone can be here. It's going to be set up on the screen, but there won't be an instructor here doing it. But Jared will be here. He'll be able to answer all the questions. But the plan is to still set up when we're down there at Wolf Creek Anglers Fly Shop. We're going to be tying the Noble Stone and the Circus Peanut. So if those are two flies you guys want to do, make sure you tune in next week. And also for April 18th, if you guys were here during Christmas, we had that mystery fly box night. That was pretty interesting and fun. The one where we had some pretty unique patterns tied, and it's a fun, interesting night, and it's a good thing to be around for. So if you're around April 18th, make sure you do that. That will be our last one, guys. So make sure you come in. Without further ado, we're gonna be doing something a little bit different this evening. Usually we tie 2 or 3 patterns. Tonight we're gonna be tying 5 flies total. It's gonna be 3 leeches and 2 worms. It's going to be a nice change from what we've been doing lately, from not overly difficult but somewhat complex patterns. These are very simple, very quick, and very cost effective. So it's pretty much a trout fly box that should have all 3 of these patterns, 5 patterns, sorry. So without further ado, today we're going to start with the Marabou Leech. If you can see it here, it's a very simple pattern. All it is marabou and pretty much a thread and a hook. So if you guys look in your material bags there, you'll see 3 of these pretty much streamer hooks, 3X long streamer hooks. So we're just gonna start with that one. Don't mind this color. This is one that I just tied up. I didn't have these colors here. Today we're gonna be doing these in brown. So if you have a black or brown thread, that would be ideal because we are gonna be tying over the material. So if we can hide the thread as much as possible, that would be great. So let's get this situated in our vise. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please stop me and we can go over it. Like I said, these are pretty easy patterns though. So we're just going to get our thread started here. Taking it pretty much all the way back to pretty much in between the barb and the end of the hook point there. We're going to snip that off. Now we're going to take one of the plumes you guys have in there. If it's not really a workable plume you guys have and it's all stuck together, just let me know and we'll be able to grab you another one. But what I always like to do here is I like to take these plumes and I'll push them up and I'll bring all the tips to the top, and that way I know that it's usable, right? So sometimes this material can be hard to work with, but if you just give it a little lick and just wet it a little bit, it's much easier to work with. So the tail on this fly, and pretty much all leech patterns, I like to do it as long as the shank, if not a little bit longer. You do not want to go short on this. I'm honestly not quite sure if it makes the performance any worse or better, but cosmetic wise, it does look a little bit better with a longer tail, and it might even move a little bit better in the water as well. So let's measure out that tail, wet it a little bit, just like that. We're going to transfer it over. Just a quick pinch wrap. Just a couple wraps to secure this. Nothing too special. I do like to come underneath it a little bit too. Just give it one added wrap. Sometimes it lifts the tail up a little bit as well. And we're then gonna give a couple wraps just in front. And then we're gonna take our thread and we're gonna transfer it all the way to pretty much the halfway point of the shank. Now what I'll do here is I'll just grab the stem of this marabou and I'll just give it a slight twist. You don't have to do it this way, you can just wrap it if you'd like, but this way it's just a little bit more manageable and easier to work with. All right, so as I'm doing that, just working my way up the body of the fly, and I'll tie that off right here. You can now cut this off. And like I said earlier, it'd be nice to match the thread, because what I like to do is I'll just take 2 wraps back over this marabou and then counter wrap back the same way. And it just adds a little bit of durability to it. This marabou isn't the toughest material, but that does help a little bit. And then all we're gonna do is just repeat that step 2 more times. Okay, so we're gonna grab our marabou. Same thing, I like to measure it pretty much as long as the body, if not a little bit longer. And I'll just wet it again.
It's a different plume, right?
Different plume, yes. Just like so. Okay, and then I'll transfer that over. Exact same as before. 1 collecting wrap, 2, 3, 4. It's important here also, sorry, what was that?
Sorry. When you're measuring that 7 piece of marabou,
yes.
are you doing the same length as you did prior?
Yeah, so if it's easier for you, just do it the length of the shank, right? It's the same for all 3 plumes that we will be using. Like I was saying, you want to try and keep this marabou on top as well. When we get wrapping and stuff, especially if you wet it, it's going to want to slide a little bit. So just keep checking it, making sure it's on top of the shank, like so. Okay. Couple wraps underneath to secure it. And then we're going to take that thread pretty much to about a hook eye's gap away. Like before, I'm just going to give it a slight twist. Don't mind all these stubborn fibers. Just like so. And we're just going to continue to wrap up like so. We're going to tie that off. Couple wraps in front. And we can snip that off. Just like so. How we doing, guys? Any questions? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, and as like I said before, we're just going to repeat this one final time. So, wet the material just a little bit. Measure it pretty much as length of the tail, or length of the body, sorry, again. If not, just a tad longer. And then we're just going to tie this in right on top there. Pinch wrap. Always making sure it's on top. And now there's not much room behind here, so if, I don't know, I have maybe enough room for just 1 wrap there without crowding the eye. But if that last plume goes right to the eye, that's even better. It does even look a little bit better. So I'll just tie that off quick. Couple wraps in front. Just like so. And then we can come in and cut this off. Sometimes you get some fibers that are just stubborn. That's what scissors are for. We can just come in and cut those out. And once we get to this step, guys, it's pretty much just a whip finish. Two or three turns, whatever you guys prefer. Cut our tying thread free. And that's it, guys. It's very simple pattern to tie, but extremely effective. You can tie these patterns in so many different colors, pretty much all colors that Marabou comes in. You can tie them weighted, unweighted, balanced. It really depends what you're using them for. If you're using them for rivers, you know, I've had quite a lot of success with just no weight on it. If it's just drifting through the water column, these fish go crazy for them. If you're fishing lakes, you know, a bead or maybe some lead wraps might get it down a little deeper for you. So, any questions or? No, pretty easy. Yeah. Beer's good. That's what counts. I'm waiting at the half hour. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. Everyone good to go? We'll just keep rolling along. How you doing, Cam? You still?
Yeah, no, I'm just a total.
No problem, man. No rush at all. Yeah, no worries. If you need any Marabou or anything, just let me know. And
There's enough on here to sink it pretty.
yeah. Good to go. Okay, guys. The next two patterns we're going to tie, they're relatively the same. We're just going to sub out a material and use Marabou for the other one, but we're going to grab the same hook. You should have three of those hooks there. Okay, and the leech we're going to be tying is, I guess you could say, the semi-seal Marabou leech. It's going to have the same tail, Marabou tail as well, and then for the body we're going to be using semi-seal. So, same color thread pretty much. We're just going to get our thread started. We're going to leave our thread pretty much at the hook point. And take one more Marabou plume. You guys should have final one in there. Yeah, they're just in there. So same thing, guys. We're gonna measure out our tail, length of the body, if not just a little bit longer. We're gonna wet it. like so. We're going to transfer this over. One pinch wrap. 3, 4. We're going to come underneath it. One wrap just like that. I will do a couple wraps just like that, just to secure it. And I'll come and cut this off. Come in and do a little bit of cleanup. When you're doing this, I always like to grab it and hold the marabou as I'm wrapping. Sometimes this material has a tendency of twisting and rotating on you. So if you just grab it and pinch it, it should stay where it wants to. Okay, now for the body, we're going to create a dubbing loop. If it's too short, guys, that's okay. You can just make another one and just keep moving along. But I usually like to make it, about 7 or 8 inches or so. Gives you plenty of room to work with. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to extend the thread and we're going to bring it back over the hook, and then we're just going to keep wrapping over itself. And that's just going to bind those threads together. And right before we get where we want to, I'm just going to take my bobbin, I'm going to wrap it, and I'm going to rotate it over the thread. Okay, so what I did there is that was before. I'm just going to grab it, rotate it over, continue wrapping. And all that's going to do is just bind those threads together and make sure I have a nice tight dubbing loop.
We're going right to the base of the marabou?
Pretty much right where you tied in that marabou, yeah. And then we're just going to take our thread and we're going to extend it all the way to the front, leaving us enough room. Now, if you guys have a dubbing twister, it's ideal here. It makes it a lot easier. If not, I don't know, maybe we have some extra ones, I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know how else you do it without a dubbing twister, but. So what I like to do here, guys, there is quite a bit of material in there that is used for 2 flies, so make sure you don't use it all. But I'll just take a chunk here and I'll hold it in my left hand. And I'll just pull some off like this, okay, just like that. I'm not going crazy here, but I'm also not doing it too light. If you go too heavy, the body will be too thick, and if you go too light, it'll just all peel off and it won't look properly. So all I'm going to do is just keep adding this in to the top like that. Make sure you go right to the top as well. And the only thing I'm thinking about here is just consistency. There's no gaps in the semi-seal. There's not one chunk is bigger than the other. I'm just trying to keep it the same. Also, when you put it through, I like to center the material, and what I mean by that is try to keep it evenly on the left and the right side. And I'll just keep working my way down. Sometimes it's stubborn and frustrating and the line won't go in, but just keep working at it and eventually it'll go in. Just going to add a little bit more here. Just keep going, no gaps. Keep pushing it up. I'm just going to add a little bit more here. just like so. Once you're happy with the consistency of it, the cool thing about these dubbing twisters, guys, is you can just lay your finger down like this, just give it a quick spin, and let the thread do the rest. And when you're twisting it here, you'll know when it gets too tight. If you just start twisting it and that twister just dies on you, it's pretty much a good indication. Now at this point, you can wrap it with your dubbing twister or you can undo it. I honestly like to take it off, but before I do so, I'll take my brush or something like that, and I'll just come in and I'll just tweeze this out. You don't want to go too crazy, because then you'll just take all the fibers out. What I'll do here is I'll just try to and I'll just brush this out. And bodies of these flies are relatively thin and they're not very thick, so that's where, and as you tie more of these, you'll find that spot where, you know, if I'm putting too much or if I'm not putting enough. So once we get something like this, try to get it in the screen there, something like that. Okay, I'm going to take this off my dubbing twister. Then again, it's up to you guys. And all I'm doing here is I'm just wrapping up the body of the fly, okay? And as I'm doing so, I'm just pulling all these fibers back. Okay, our objective here is to trap as many, or sorry, at least as many fibers as possible. And we're just gonna keep going up the body, touching wraps, like so. When we're pulling these back too, don't pull too hard because you'll end up just pulling them right out. So just kind of comb them back. Pretty much right to the eye. I mean, don't go too close and crowded, but give yourself enough for a couple wraps after. And we're just going to keep combing this back. And as you can see here, this semi-seal gives a nice shaggy look to these leeches, and that's what we want. We want as much movement out of these flies as possible. Keep combing. And as I get towards the eye, I'll just start making these wraps a little bit tighter, just to get the profile that I want. Keep wrapping. If you get some balls, just come in, comb that out quick. All right, a couple more wraps here, like so. As we get to our spot, we're going to tie that off. Pull everything back, a couple nice tight wraps in front. Come in and cut that excess off. And then what I'll do is I'll run my fingers through this and I'll just pull out all the fibers that didn't get trapped. Okay? I'll build up just a slight head, nothing crazy. Just like that. Then at this point, I'll just come in and whip finish. And I'll cut that free. How you doing, man? You doing good? Yeah, perfect. At this point, once you've whip finished and cut your thread free, what I'll do is I'll come in with my brush, and it really helps if you have some Velcro or I'm not sure a toothbrush would be fine enough, but you never know. But what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll just back comb it. And you can wiggle it and just try to release as many fibers as you can that got trapped. Okay, and I'll come in and just push this back and forth. And at this point, it looks a little ridiculous and shaggy, but once you pull it all back, it does have a nice look to it. Okay? Now this is all personal preference. You can come in and you can leave it as it is, or you can come in and just give it a slight haircut. I'll just cut off some fibers I just don't want to lay down properly. Now I've even heard of guys taking these flies and they'll dip them in boiling water. And what that does is it just takes away all the memory of this material, right? And then they'll set it and they'll let it dry and they'll comb it to the whatever, pretty much whatever they want it, and it's perfect. It will stay like that. So honestly, that just seems like a little too much effort for me, but these work just fine. How we do it?
Good, I think.
It's nice. It's perfect.
It's first
No, man. Shaggy is perfect. That's what we want.
Oh.
You're good to go? Oh, yeah. Nice. Perfect. No, it looks great, man. How you doing, man?
I think I'm good.
Perfect?
First time I ever used this tool, so.
That's awesome, man. It only takes once, and you get used to it pretty quick, so.
Oh yeah, they're handy.
They are, man. Makes it a lot easier, that's for sure.
Isn't that great?
Oh, you guys are good. It's perfect.
Isn't this one so much better?
Some guys like to cut them and stuff, but I like, honestly, the more shaggier they are, the best. They work better, man.
He switched the flies. That's the one I tied. This is the one he tied. He switched it.
Is this good?
Yeah.
That's the way you want it.
Come on.
Come on.
That's the way you want it.
Yeah.
You want to fish.
Same as before too, guys. I mean, this semi-seal comes in so many colors. And it's such a great material for leeches. It's very durable, and it does have quite a bit of flash to it too, so it works out pretty good. These flies, guys, I mean, you can tie them all the way up to a size, even a 4 even, pretty much a streamer pattern. You know, leeches this time of year in the bow are pretty big, so you can get away tying these pretty big, and they're very effective. You can dead drift them, you could use them as under an indicator, you can strip them as a streamer. I mean, leeches are so versatile, you can pretty much fish them anyway. And a great snack for a trout. Alrighty, speak up. Not loud enough? Okay. Okay guys, for this last pattern here, pretty much the exact same thing, except we're just gonna semi-seal the entire body. Okay, so we're gonna use semi-seal for the tail, and we're also gonna use it for the body as well. It's okay. So, there's more, yeah, there's a little bit more over here as well. I'm using a blood leech color, but I think you guys have a brownish, maybe not? Red? Yeah, maybe you have the red one, I'm not sure. Yeah. So, as always, we're gonna get it situated in our vise. Yeah, you should just use the last one of your streamer hooks there. Yep. So, same thing, we're gonna get our thread started. Take our thread. Yeah, if you guys need more, we got some more up here. You just more? Sure. Here, give me a smidge. Give me a tiny chunk. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks. Here, I don't need that one. So for this one, guys, we're going to be using a chunk about this big for the entire fly. Okay, probably not even this much actually. This stuff, if you pull it apart, you can really get this stuff goes a long way. Okay, so what I'll do here is I'll pull out a chunk, kind of just like this. And what I'll do is I'll just work it between my fingers. Just like so, okay? Probably everyone at home, kind of like that, I guess. And I'll just keep rotating it in my fingers, and then all the fibers that come out on the ends, you can restack them. Okay, some of them just don't want to go. You can actually just pull them right out, but to make the tail as thick as possible, we'll just keep pulling them out and restacking them. Just like so. Once we get our tail, pretty much, like as always, pretty much as long as the body, a little bit longer, okay? We're gonna get that on right there. We're gonna do one pinch wrap, secure that down, and we're just gonna do a couple wraps up like that, okay? Then I'm gonna take this material and I'm gonna fold it back over itself, and I'm gonna tie that down. Make sure you end your thread where you finish tying the first part of that semi-seal, okay? I'll come in, do one collecting wrap underneath the tail, tie it off like that. At this point, you can just pull out the ones that don't want to be there. All right. No. We're just the tail. Yeah. For the rest of the body, we're just going to create a dubbing loop again and do the same thing as last time. Okay. Everyone at that step, good to go. So same thing as last time, we're just going to create another dubbing loop, 7-8 inches or so. Come in right to where we want it. We're going to take our thread and we're going to rotate it around, and then we're going to continue wrapping, okay? Take our thread and advance it right to the front. Take our dubbing twister again, and just repeat the same thing we did last time. Add the dubbing consistently all the way up. What's that?
Do you ever wax the thread?
I do, I just don't have it on me.
I got wax here.
Make it a lot easier if you did. So everyone at home, if you do have wax, you can apply it to your thread here, and it'll just make this dubbing stick really easily to the thread. Make this whole process much easier and much faster. Fortunately, I don't have any wax on me, but we'll just do it this way for now. Is that semi seal kicking around somewhere? Yeah. I lied. Yeah. Thanks.
Does that breeze smell like tuna?
No, it doesn't. God. I smell tacos. Yeah.
Just gonna add a little bit more here. Yep. So same thing as before. Take my dubbing twister here. Give it a good spin. And let the thread do the rest. Come in with our brush again. Just pry it out a little bit. Don't want to go too crazy here. Give it one more quick spin here. Just like that. Same thing as before, guys. We're just going to take this material and wrap it up the body. Okay. Every wrap, just pulling that material back. Sometimes you end up pulling out more than you want, but it's okay. We'll just take our brush after and pull everything out. You seem to have got a little thin towards the head here, but that's okay. What I'm going to do here is just add one more small dubbing loop. Just like so. And I'll add just a little bit more. Okay. Give this a quick spin. Yeah, this specific twister by Loon, guys, it makes it a lot easier, that's for sure.
for everybody, absolutely.
Come in, pry this out just a little bit.
So I'm putting it in between both spots.
And we can finish wrapping this body. Tie that off. You can see here it looks a little shaggy and unruly, but clean it up. Add just a slight head to the fly. All we have left now is to whip finish. Come in, give it a little back comb. And there you have it, the semi-seal leech. Very effective, very good, and very easy to tie. Did you figure out that dubbing twister there, that issue there? You got it all good? So you've decided to get your rod, but you're confused as to how you go about getting all the parts. Well, I've created a custom rod form on the website. It'll go specifically in detail, step by step, one where you're gonna start, last step is where you're gonna finish. So we can start with the thread wraps, the reel seat, the grips. They come in all wide different ranges. There'll be a bunch of options supplied on the website. As you go through, there'll be simple click, and then you'll be able to get what you want. And then down at the end, there'll be a note section for any additional things you would like to add to your rod, meaning your name, personalization, you'd like a different, you'd like every guide to be a different color, everything's possible. And I believe the easier I make this process for you, the less stressful it is. And I've realized that as going through, people don't fully understand, and that's why I'm here, and that's what Classic Custom Rods is going to supply, is communication between the both of us at the fullest to make you as comfortable as possible through this whole process. Okay guys, that's it for leeches. For now, we're going to be working on to the worm section. The dirty worm, that's right. These are even easier to tie than the leeches, guys. We're gonna do the chenille worm first, okay? The chenille worm. You could call it a San Juan. There's several different names for this fly, but it's very effective. You can tie it in several different colors, and it's just a simple, very effective fly. The hook I'm using, I'm not sure what the exact name of it is, but I think it's just a wet nymph hook, I'm not sure. Daiichi. So we're gonna get that situated in our vise, and you guys should have a piece of red chenille in there as well. If you're not done yet, no worries, we can just wait a little bit. It's all good. What's that? You'd want to use red for this one. You can use red, orange, I mean,
the swimming hook or the?
Yes, it's the one with the, so these hooks are relatively similar, but it's the one with, yeah, the one with more of a curve to it, with the upright eye on it. Yeah. You can use either or. The hooks on these flies, I mean, there's so many that you could do, but for this demonstration, we're just going to use this one. Okay, guys, so if you look in your bags, you'll see a little piece of red chenille. It's the only material we'll be using on this fly, minus our thread. So we're just going to get this started. Get our thread started, and we do want to have touching wraps as we're doing this. Bottom of the fly is going to be revealed. Just try to cover the shank as much as you can. And I'll take the thread pretty much to where the barb is. Okay. I'm going to take my piece of chenille. This one is just a little bit short, but that's okay. I would like to, yeah, we'll need that after for sure. Piece I have is a little bit short, but what we're going to do, what I like to usually do is take the tail, the length of the body, right? That's a good indication of it. So I'll come in, okay, and I'll transfer that length over. I'll do one pinch wrap on top, 2, 3, 4, 5 wraps, okay? Always want to make sure that chenille is on top of the shank. Do one good wrap underneath, and then I'll transfer that thread. Down the body to pretty much halfway point from where we tied in to the hook eye, okay? Just gonna repeat that, pinch wrap, tie the chenille on top, 2, 3, 4, yes. And then your thread breaks, of course.
That's never happened before, has it?
No, it never has. It's the first time for everything, I guess. All right, let's get that thread started again. Cut this tag end off. Work our way back up to the middle. All right, let's try that again. All right, we're going to tie that, yes, right onto the shank again as well, just like so. Just like that. Take our thread, transfer it to the front. And then that's where we're going to tie in our final spot here. One more pinch wrap. 2, 3, 4, 5. depending how close you are to the eye with that final wrap, you can either whip finish in front of it, or you can just whip finish right on top of those wraps. It's up to you. For this fly, I'm going to whip finish right on top. Pull that off. Okay, now at this point, if you have a lighter, or if you don't have one, we'll just, perfect. They're getting passed around right now. Yeah. And all I'm doing here is I'm not burning the entire chenille. That's not what we want. If we were to burn all of this chenille, the current's gonna hit this and it's just gonna break it every time. Or it's gonna pretty much wear it down a lot quicker than it is. These flies unfortunately aren't durable. 2 or 3 fish and this fly is pretty much mangled, okay? So we're gonna come in and we're just gonna burn those tips slightly, okay? That just gives a realistic look to this fly. You don't want to overdo it. Just enough to get some coloration on the ends. Just like that. Anybody need a lighter? Hey guys, so pretty easy, pretty effective. You can tie these in so many colors, purples, greens. I don't know, you probably do it in yellow and they'd probably still take it at some point, but really very simple. The last thing I'll do too to the bottom of this fly is I'll just take some thin UV resin. If you don't have that, you can put a little bit of head cement, but don't overly coat it, and I'll just come in and I'll just put a little bit on the bottom. And that's just going to protect these wraps. Okay. Come in, torch that quick. And there you have it. A chenille or San Juan worm. Or a variation of it at least. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. It's about as easy as it gets when it comes to fly tying. Okay guys, for this last fly here, we're going to be doing a wire worm with a red bead. Arguably the most consistent fly on the Bow River year round. I do, yes, personally I do. If I'm using 3 flies, I'll put it in the front or the back just to bring everything down. It is a heavier fly. But again, you can tie these in so many colors. And this bead really is what I think separates it from other wire worms. Yeah, so we're going to put the bead on. Yeah. Don't have a bead. We can definitely help you out with that.
I need a bead too.
You guys need a bead?
Yeah.
No worries. Just pass that around.
Okay.
I'll leave the lid just in case it decides to.
Do you need a bead?
Yeah, we might have missed a few on there. I'm not sure. Anybody else need a bead? You need a hook? You need a hook? Yeah, you might need one of those.
lots of worms.
Oh yeah, I think we all have plenty of them.
Thanks, man.
No worries.
You have to make one.
Anybody else need a hook? Good? Sure. Okay, once we get the bead onto our hook there, okay, we're just gonna put it in our vise. Just like so. What's that, sorry? Yes. No, there is no thread on this fly, that's right. Pretty much a bead, a hook, and wire. Okay? Now there is several ways of getting this wire started, but this way I found to be the easiest. So I'm just gonna take my bead, I'm gonna slide it to the back, get it out of the way. I'm gonna take this wire, I'm gonna put it through the eye, like just like that. Pretty much. I'm gonna wrap it, and that first wrap is probably the hardest. Other than that, all I'm doing is I'm just doing touching wraps all the way up this fly.
You go through the eye and that's it?
You go, yeah. Go through the eye and then do a tight wrap around. And then other than that, and what we're doing here, guys, we're trying to have no space in this wire, okay? And it is loose enough. If you do, you can just take your thumb and you can push it up, okay? And all we're doing is we're just gonna keep going up. Okay? Once we get to pretty much the halfway point, okay, we're gonna take our bead and we're gonna push it up to those wire and we're gonna hold it there, okay? And we're gonna take the wire with our thumb and we're gonna wrap that wire around it, okay? All that's doing is just holding that bead in place, okay? And I'm just gonna continue wrapping. Okay, and I'm just going to continue going down the body. If there's some kinks in your wire, that's okay. You can work them out and still use it. So.
We got a winner. Come a long way.
My wire here is just a tad too short to hold it, but that's okay. Nah, I guess you could, yeah, if you have enough, for sure. Okay, and once we get to our spot, all we're gonna do is we're just gonna helicopter this wire off. Just like that, okay? And the same thing on the front. And there you have it. That is probably the easiest and arguably the most effective fly you can tie for the Bow River. Yes, and it's a whitefish killer. Unfortunately, it's a whitefish killer.
Is it bigger and special?
But yeah, exactly. If you like catching whitefish, this is your fly. But you can catch some big, I mean, I've caught some big fish on this fly. It's so simple and it's very durable. I mean, if anything, the wire's gonna get scratched. I've never had a bead break. That's right. Or off my back of my head. That happens all the time too. Everybody good? Good to go? Okay, and that's pretty much it, guys. The patterns we had planned for tonight, they're very quick, they're very simple, but you know, I believe that no fly box should go without these flies. I actually have had quite a bit of luck fishing lakes with these wire worms as well, just dead drifting them. They work incredibly well, closer to the bottom. But for rivers, they're great under an indicator, and they're a very consistent fly. Okay, so that's it for tonight, guys. thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoyed these Leech patterns. Also, just a friendly reminder again, guys, for next week, we will be gone, but this will be open. Jared will be here again for all the questions or anything like that. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.